Today's show, we are going to be looking at preseason game number 2 with some intriguing things. Jokic, the scorer, Murray, the passer, Strawther, the rotation player on opening night. All those questions and more on Locked On Nuggets.
You are Locked On Nuggets, your daily Denver Nuggets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody, and welcome to the Locked On Nuggets podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Adam Mattes from DNVR, and I'm joined by Swipa Cam on this Friday. Swipa, what's going on, brother?
Man, I'm living. It's been a great day, great Friday. We are one step closer, Adam, to Caleb Williams being in Denver.
Are you locked in last night to Broncos or Nuggets? Are you watching both? Are you second screening it? What's your setup?
Yeah, so I had a 2-screen thing going on, and I mean, I would very much more so focus on the Nuggets game. I can tell you that much.
Oh, there you go.
Preseason game.
How the mighty have fallen. Our poor Broncos. But Nuggets have not. It was a very intriguing game. They go up against the Chicago Bulls. They actually lose in double overtime. A double overtime I don't think anybody asked for. But we're 2 games in, and I feel like it's time to start asking some questions. There's some trends that are starting to emerge. And my first one, as much as I am significantly more interested in the back half of the rotation than I am the front half, I got to start with the front half, and I have to start with the 2-time MVP. Jokic last night takes 10 shots. He goes 8 of 10 in one half, Swipa. In game 1, he shoots 11 times in the half. That is on pace for 20 field goal attempts in a game if he were to play this thing out for a full game.
Yeah.
We know Jokic doesn't shoot 20 times very often. It's rare that he takes 20 shots in a game, 10 and a half. And it's even more rare that he does it in preseason. Is this something? Swipa, is it possible that Jokic is intentional about taking so many shots in the preseason and being so aggressive?
I think that his role, Adam, might change. And this is not fully, but you know what I've been noticing? Jokic is taking more shots. Murray is playmaking at a higher level. He's been passing the ball a lot. And so for me, I feel like Jokic is getting used to playing with everybody again. But I'm not going to hold you. I think it's a combination of Jokic making a conscious decision to shoot more, Murray being a more primary playmaker within this offense. Look, I think there's something to this idea. I think there's a little bit of a championship swagger thing that's kind of happening right now. I just think Joker is just of the mindset of like, I'm just going to do it. And, even the pick and roll they had yesterday, they had this little, Murray had behind the back to him. There were 2 straight plays yesterday where he caught him in the pocket, 2 different floaters, and then obviously letting the ball roll up down the court and then getting the 3-pointer off.
The dribble 3, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think he's just I think he is feeling comfortable with himself. But I also think some of this is like, what are you going to do about it? Like, I think because you win a championship, you're the finals MVP, 2-time MVP, and you're coming into the season, the squad is healthy, the boys are back, the vibes are high. I just think everybody is just locked in. I think Jokic he's not asserting dominance in a way to like score more than anybody else, but I think Jokic is just playing the game, and this is just the easiest thing for him to do right now.
I'm going to disagree with you in this one way. And us trying to project ourselves into Jokic's brain is the funniest thing we do consistently. We being media, just because he's such a different dude that trying to pretend we know what he's thinking is a fool's errand. But I'm going to pretend I know what he's thinking. Because last year, if you recall, he didn't take very many shots at all, 1 or 2 a game. It looked like he was trying to not shoot. And I remember thinking, there's new guys coming in to the team. There's some young guys. And I felt like he was trying to set a tone of, if I don't need to look for my shot, nobody needs to look for their shot. This is a team game, and I'm going to set a tone about this, what we do. And it worked. Guys have bought in like you've never seen, and they win a championship. This year, I wonder if he's trying to set a different tone. Last year they eased into the season. What did Jokic say? We're probably going to be bad. Or Murray's going to suck for 20 games. You're like, that's going to be a process, this or that. I wonder if Jokic is trying to set a tone of, hey, we're going from the jump this year. We have a ring ceremony against the Western Conference rival on opening night. We got Memphis the second night. This isn't a ease into it and then let's peak in January. This is we need to hit the ground running, and we need to send a message to the league. It almost feels like Jokic is playing with purpose when he's going. I mean, look, Swipe, we know he could go 8 of 10 a lot of nights, especially in the preseason. That's not something
he
but he rarely does. I just feel like maybe there's a little message sending of it's go time now, fellas.
Yeah, I don't actually mind that at all. But do you think Jokic is thinking more so about the regular season, starting off with the Anthony Davis and then Steven Adams, Jaren Jackson matchup? Or is he thinking more so that we're setting a tone that we want to come into the year not with a significant drop off from what we did in the NBA Finals, but
The second one. The second one. I don't think he actually cares about Lakers, this or that. I think I'm using that just to kind of set the tone myself. But I think it's more of, no, we're going from the jump. We're starting from a higher floor because we're going to reach a higher ceiling.
But look, I'm trying to tell you. So this is the thing. I think we talked to Matt not too long ago. He talked about where I think he had the Nuggets like 49 wins or something like that or whatever in the season.
Yeah.
I just don't think that what I'm seeing from them right now, I don't see a team that's like, all right, we're going to ease into the year, take everything super nice and slow. I almost feel like they want to make a point. And I don't even necessarily mean make a point to like the rest of the league, but make a point to themselves that like, we're going to, from the start of the year, we're going to set the tone for what we're going to do. And the expectation is championship. And that's what we're going to do. Then we're going to go through this year. We're just going to play to the best of our ability from the jump.
The word is mature, Swipe that I keep thinking of, and maybe even serious, business-like, all of these things, because I think you could say of Jokic in previous iterations, this is really before the MVPs, he was immature. There were nights where he didn't shoot the ball, and there were nights where we called them emotional funks, where you're just like, man, he didn't show up tonight. What happened? And over the years, those have become less and less. But there's levels to it. Every year it gets a little more serious, a little more intense. And I just wonder if this is the evolution of Jokic. Then this year it goes from no, he's serious to no, he's maniacal. What did he say in the interview when I interviewed him in San Diego? I think you have to be a fanatic to be great. I just wonder if we're entering Jokic's maniac phase, fanatic
Jordan
phase.
Era.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's like, hey, preseason game, gone are the days where I'm kind of moping through it or this or that. Like, this is work. I'm here to work. And that's the approach he has, and he's killing dudes. But do you want to answer that?
Well, I'm going to ask you, so with that, would you, I guess, Adam, obviously you being around him and team and everybody for years now, would you expect anything less of him, given the fact that he has won 2 MVPs? He just went on one of the most dominant postseason runs ever. The Nuggets went 16-4, and now they seemingly have some questions to answer about the legitimacy of their title and going into this next year. Would you expect any different given all that they have accomplished and everything that's in front of them right now?
I think what's accomplished is in the past. I don't think Jokic looks at these things or that Murray or any of these guys go, we have to validate what we already did. That's validated. It's stamped. It was a different team. It wasn't even the same team. It was a different one. But I do think that, and I've thought this for a long time, Jokic is more motivated and more driven than he's given credit for. People think, oh, it's just that he plays into it. He does this. But I think Jokic looks at it and goes, I think I'm the best. The best should win. I think we are the best. The best should win. And he just has a little bit more intensity than people give him credit for. And look, it's not like these shots are falling into his lap. He's being aggressive. He's shooting threes. He's taking shots. Like, he is being aggressive. The other guy, though, the other half of that equation is Jamal Murray. And we all have been talking about the year of Jamal. Is this the breakout year? And when we say breakout year, we think, oh, he's going to score. He's going to put up points this year. But here he comes in first 2 preseason games and is playing great point guard play. Yeah. The shots, he hasn't necessarily been on fire, but he also hasn't been aggressive trying to score and cook guys a whole lot. He has been aggressive making phenomenal 2-man game reads. Yeah. And to me, I wonder if the year of Jamal is actually more about the point guarding a part of the equation than the scoring.
What's so funny about this, Adam, is that how could you turn that off? Because he literally just went to an NBA Finals and he figured something out. He figured out a better way to play basketball that didn't rely on him being a primary scorer. So I think the thing is, like, Murray, I feel like, and again, this is what's so dope about NBA playoffs. It puts you in a situation to, like, learn how to respond to adversity on a moment-by-moment basis, and it, like, forces you into different play styles. And so I think for Murray, it's like, okay, we went through Minnesota. There's a way I had to play. went to the Suns, went to the Lakers, and then we went through the Heat. And then he figured out, like, there's an actual playmaking engine that I could be that can help everybody else figure out what they need to be. And so even some of the passes that he's making right now, and he's forcing the issue, Adam, and this is how you know his maturity. He used to force the issue to score. Preseason so far, he is forcing the issue to make the next pass. And I love the transition for Murray as just struggling to get off these really difficult shots to Murray now getting to these same spots, being able to still hit that little turnaround, mid-range floater, mid-range, jumper and all that stuff. But at the other side of it, his passing has been the best I've ever seen it this early in the regular season. So I think there's a tone being set even by him that this year is going to be more one of those 28 years where he's going to be a primary facilitator. What
I think the truth is that there is a little bit of us going kind of far on 2 preseason games, right? We're reading a lot into this. But what I think is fair to read into is Aaron Gordon in game number 1 took 1 shot. Jamal Murray is looking like more of a passer. Jokic looked more like a scorer. None of these things are things that are like in their nature or in their, but this team I think is just so dialed, so focused that the texture of the game dictates it. And Murray can be the passer. He can be the scorer. Jokic could be the aggressive scorer. He could be the passer. I just think these guys are all locked in. They're all dialed in, and they all it's business. From game number 1 preseason on, that starting lineup, it hasn't always been effective. They do they're still a little rusty or whatever, but they just look like a serious team. And I don't know how else to explain it other than they look like a serious group that is just, even beyond their years as a champion, they still look more like a team that's been together and is in their 30s than a team that is still entering their prime. And that's what's so exciting to me. So Murray, Jokic, love what I'm seeing so far out of both of those guys. Aaron Gordon, KCP, love what I'm seeing out of those guys, even though we're not going to talk about AG and KCP too much. I just like what I see from the starting lineup, and I'm confident.
KCP looks really good right now, by the way.
He makes his shots, man. I mean, he makes his shots. So, all right, let's take a break. On the other side, though, the story of preseason to me, the single story, is probably Julian Strawther, who is really looking like a guy that needs minutes in the rotation. We're going to talk about that on the other side.
Yeah, but Adam, I don't know if you watched the Denver Broncos game yesterday.
I did not.
But if you wanted to, there was most of the best that you could have tapped into. So I am of the mindset that I think the Broncos should just tank everything. I'm full tankathon.
You are of the correct mind frame, yes.
Yeah, I'm tired of watching this. So the great thing is FanDuel has bets that you can tap into every single day. You can snap into the action this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get into the action. The app is so easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props. Is Russell Wilson going to throw more than 2 interceptions in a game? You can take that bet. Over under. Will the Broncos score more than 10 points a game? Take the under. You can do all that stuff and more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season.
All right, back here, segment 2, Locked on Nuggets podcast. Adam and Swipe on your Friday morning. All right, Julian Strawther is the guy. He has looked good in both games. He looked great in one. I thought he looked very good last night. The 3-point shooting we knew was going to come. Summer League's the funniest. First of all, can we just never, ever make proclamations out of Summer League again? Hunter Tyson can't miss in Summer League. Julian Strawther can't make it Summer League. It doesn't matter. You get to this preseason, Julian Strawther, I'm shocked at this moment when he misses a 3 swiper, but that's not the part that is impressing me. The part that's impressing me is how natural he looks out on the court for a rookie. He's in the right places. He never stands out in the wrong way, and he just finds seams. The back cut he had playing alongside Jokic and getting a layup, I watch that one and I go, oh, he's an NBA player. There it is. Yeah. I love what I've seen from this dude.
And let me ask you this. So we've had shooters before. Both Highland was a shooter.
Yeah.
But there's a difference in his game. And I feel like he's just a more team mature player that doesn't require forcing shots, doesn't require having to dribble to get to a shot as often. Do you feel like he is a cleaner version of maybe any shooter that's come into, in terms of cleaner, competitive version, team-ready version of anything that's kind of walked into the Denver Nuggets locker room.
Here's what I think. Christian Braun came in last year, and he was a no-mistake defensive player who had a little bit of offense to his game. I think Julian Strawther, through 2 preseason games, looks like his offensive counterpart. He looks like a no-mistake offensive player who makes a huge impact, not because he's spectacular, but because he knows where to be and he can execute his job. And then on the defensive end, like Christian Braun, is he a great offensive player? No, but he's not an anchor. He can do things. He knows how to cut. He knows how to shoot a little bit. Strawther, to me, looks like that. He looks huge. He's not standing out in a negative way. Defensively, I don't think there's a single play so far in the preseason where I've gone like, ooh, that's ugly. That one hurts. So to me, he looks like Christian Braun's offensive counterpart.
Yeah, so he did have a gamble miss in the first preseason game, but it was just him being aggressive, trying to play the scheme. But again, the way that he even interacts on offense, he doesn't force any possession. And that's huge for a rookie not to force a possession. And then he had good screen navigation a couple of times when he was playing versus the Suns as well. And so even yesterday, like his ability to know his spot, you know what I love? I love a shooter that is able to work that empty side pick and roll when he's trying to get that step back with and they're still pressing up and going over the top. And then he came down to the baseline, caught a floater, came down to the mid-range in the paint, got a floater. I just love the way.
Man, last night, though, was the best one. At the top of the key, he kind of shakes and does a step back 3. And that's one where, again, it came in the right moment, right? If he would have done that 20 seconds on the clock, you're like, okay, there it is. There's the bad play where he stepped out. That was one where it was like he had to do something. He kind of had a grenade. I got to make something. And he had it in his bag, and I didn't think he did.
Did you see him run Caruso off of those screens as well?
To what?
So remember, Caruso was guarding him on the right.
Oh, right.
He ran him off both of the screens. And so even like his timing and stuff was down.
Well, that shot was so quick. Like Caruso is good at fighting through screens, one of the best in the NBA. And the other thing about Caruso is he's big. He's tall. Julian Strawther's taller. So when Julian Strawther comes off and he has just a little bit of separation, the shot was so quick and his jump elevation and height was so high. Everybody talked about the low release. I don't know. You had a tall defensive player who's good at navigating screens who couldn't catch up in time to contest a 3, and he drained it. I'm telling you, Strawther to me looks like Christian Braun, where I'm like, it's not that he's spectacular. It's that he's so solid with moments of spectacular.
Let me see. First off, Adam, I got to ask you, there's an Adam Modest test, okay?
Okay.
There's the 6'5" test. So when you stand next to Julian, was he clear of you? Like, is he a clear 6'5"?
Easy. Easy. He is. I mean, what do they have him listed at? 6'7"? I think 6'6", something like that. Yeah. Easy and long. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like long arm, long leg. So like to me, he really is tall, and this is why I like Christian Braun. He's taller than you think. Strawther taller than you think. There's some tall players out here, and that's a big part of it. And here's the real question: we're talking about questions that are arising. Has he done enough already for you to feel like he is a night 1 rotation player?
I don't think the question is for me. I think the question is for the coaching staff, and I think it's a yes. Well, the reason why I say that is because I think a player that offers you that kind of lineup versatility where you could put a pure shooter onto the court that plays within this role and is not a negative defender on a consistent basis. Again, that was the big thing with Bones. Bones had to learn how to play defense. And then Bones had to learn how to take team-friendly shots on time within the offense. And he never really learned how to do that, and he never got better defensively, but they needed that kind of scoring fun. Julian is like, all right, Julian, Christian, Reggie, or Julian, Christian, Peyton, or Justin Holiday. You can put those players out there with an assortment of Murray or Jokic or Porter, and it all makes sense. I think that's the thing about Julian Strawther's game. Whoever you put him with Murray, great floor space. Jokic, corner, cutter. MPJ, now you got lights out shooters everywhere. And even if you want to put him with KCP or whoever else, he just fits because he's not going to be a clear negative defensively. He's going to offer you some things because of his size. But offensively, man, he's not just a shooter. He's a shooter who can get to his spot and who can play high IQ basketball. And again, maybe that's just a credit to being at Gonzaga, and that just helps him out. But it's just,
I think there's no question, first of all, I mean, that the high IQ and coming from Gonzaga matters. Here's the thing. we're going to get to Reggie, Pickett, and Colin later on. Those guys, the point guard part of this is still TBD, and I do think Malone will likely give those guys a runway, or give Reggie a runway early on in the season. But if you start to talk about coherent five-man lineups, like what makes sense is a bench staggered lineup. Murray staggering, we know that's probably going to happen. So that's your point guard. So what do you have around him? Well, Christian Brown, that's a great number 2 next to him. He's going to guard. He's going to be we know what he's going to do. Julian Strawther now, the one thing you need is you need some spacing. You start talking about Peyton and Justin and Z, you're like, I don't know if there's enough spacing offensively. Could it be good defensively? Yes, but could it be good offensively? Strawther kind of, at least conceptually on paper, kind of solves this. Murray and Strawther with like Zeke on the court, that's 3 shooters. That's spacing. And now you can start to talk about Peyton and Christian as guys that plug the hole. So I don't know if he's going to be night number 1, just because Malone's MO is always you have to earn it double. You don't just earn it. You have to earn it kind of double when you're young. And I do think there's a method to that madness. But when I look long-term, I go, Julian Strawther looks like a guy, at least in a regular season, that can plug a hole and make. It's the first time I could conceive a bench lineup that actually makes a little bit of sense. Murray, Brown, Strawther, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, that could work.
Do you trust what you've seen so far? Like just like little 3 dribble sets. Like, and I mean, when I say ball handling, I mean 3 dribble sets from Strawther. So like boom, 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 like quick decision stuff. Do you trust him enough with his ball handling to be like a nice like secondary option with the bench if he did have to like, move off the dribble a little bit based on what you've seen?
No. I've seen a little bit more than I expected, but that's one that I'd have to be sold a little bit more on. Like I'm going to have to see a lot more of that. But it is something there that I could see developing. It's something that I've seen enough to know that it's not a hopeless, like, okay, this is a guy that's got too far to go.
Right.
There's something there. I'm just not saying I trust it just yet. And that is one thing about a potential Christian, Julian, are any of those guys secondary ball handlers so far? I don't know quite yet.
I think the thing, so Christian has the way he dribbles the ball is it's a little stiff for me. But like I think with Julian, what I have noticed is that you can tell there's like a little bit more leeway. And again, I think you in the interview that you did with them, with DNVR, obviously, I think you talked about how when he went to Gonzaga, they turned him into a shooter.
He was a scorer, all-around scorer.
Right. So I think that's in his bag somewhere. It's just that he learned how to, concise his game. But I think the thing is, and I think that with the bench especially, if they can just let him maybe use some more of that to say, like, again, not a lot, but can you run a pick and roll? Like, can you beat your man off the dribble a little bit? Like, can you get by him or can you get to that step back? And that's what I mean. It's just getting to the pick and roll, getting to the step back, or getting somewhere where you can give somebody else the ball. So I think I feel more comfortable with him than I did at this point in time last year, even through game 2 with Christian Brown. That's like a dribble ball handler.
To me, it's pretty close. Or you're saying just as a ball handler. Okay, That's fair. That's fair. I'll say the other thing about Strawther that I like Christian Brown, is he doesn't just look like a good bench player. He looks like a good stagger player. He looked great with Jokic. He fit in perfectly. And that to me is where that makes a rotation easier, because you're not like, well, we have to do things in a very specific order. It's like we can throw Christian with the starters. You can throw Strawther with the starters. Those guys fit. And that to me is really encouraging.
But you know what I love about this, Adam, is that losing Bruce Brown, you lose the rim pressure, the POA. It's definitely a different feel. But again, if you get guys like you're talking about a couple here in a little bit, but you get somebody like Julian to step into the offense, that's a different kind of dynamicism that's within your offense. And so now it's like you can't leave somebody else on the court. You can't just back away and be away from a player. And then if the player can get to that floater into that spot, I think it really just helps improve what they are as a team, man. So I'm really encouraged by what I've seen from Julian. And I'm not going to hold you. Based on what we saw in Summer League, I thought that maybe Jalen might be a more obvious play and Hunter Tyson. But right now, Julian just looks like he's just a pro.
Oh, it's not close.
Yeah.
It's not close. I mean, he's separated by a lot from those other 2 guys. So, and again, it's preseason. But it's not just did he make shots? Did this or that happen? It looks the part. And I think that's what's so encouraging. On the other side, we're going to have to rapid fire a couple other questions, because these are all the fun questions. These are all the positive ones. There are some that are not necessarily negative, but are much more like, I think they're still up in the air. So we'll get to all those on the other side. All right, back here, final segment on a Friday. Swipe a Cam, Adam Adez, talking Nuggets preseason, talking our takeaways here. So I want to start quickly. We got to go quick here, so we got to kind of rapid fire these. But I like what I've seen from Justin Holiday, but both games have come with the starters. He, to me, looks like a guy who fits with the starters, as most guys do. And this is a positive thing because he hasn't weighed them down. In my opinion, he hasn't weighed them down. He's looked good defensively. He shot the ball well. He looks the part. But he's not going to be playing with the starters very much, I don't think. He's going to be playing with the bench. So for me with Justin Holiday, well, I like what I've heard out of camp and I like what I've seen in preseason. To me, I still have him as a total mystery because I want to see him over these last 3 games. I want to see him with the bench. And does he weigh that group down? Because that's a completely different task.
Yeah, I think I would say I would feel more comfortable at some point in time with, I feel like Julian, of the players I've seen so far, I thought Peyton and Julian, but particularly Julian, I think would be a better, like maybe a little spot player in those deals. I think Justin is, you could tell he's trying to fit into a role. Like he's the corner shooter right now. Like he's trying to like stay out of the way and all that stuff. But again, like unless he's like able to hit his shot at a decent enough clip, 37 to 39%, something like that, he's not going to be a real good floor spacer. And then on top of that, it's going to cramp the paint. So now you got Zeke, Justin, Peyton, Christian, and Jamal. That just is really like a really congested area. Defensively, not bad, but he did get beat off the dribble a little bit yesterday. He just doesn't. Maybe he'll get better as the year goes on, but even like he just doesn't have the same kind of instincts that you would like to see. But I think he can be a good player. It's just Justin Holiday, I think, will be better than what he's been the last 2 years. But again, Adam, he was looked at around the league the way he was for a reason. Like he doesn't necessarily have any skill set that is particularly dominant.
Yeah, but here's my thing, Swipe. With the starters, you don't need to have a skill set. You just can't ruin it, right? That starting lineup's so dominant that you just can't ruin it. And this is why I say that is good to know because I do think there's going to be times throughout the year when they're going to need somebody to fill in. And to me, he works as a guy who maybe goes from out of the rotation to starting on a given night just to kind of like keep continuity everywhere else. And I feel okay about that. Like it actually, and that's an important thing to have. But he's going to likely start out of the gate as a bench player, and we haven't seen that yet in the preseason, really. And I don't know from what we've seen, even with the starters, if he has the skill set to be that guy. And that's why I want to say, like, he's TBD. But to me, I'm mixed. I feel like he has a role on this team, but it's not the one he's playing so far in the preseason. Let's go, though. We got to go quick. So I want to go now to Peyton Watson, who he's competing with, obviously, as a backup guy. He's a guy to me that has not stood out so far in a positive way. He hasn't really stood out. He's been up and down. He's had some spectacular plays. He's had some plays that I'm less impressed with. But my take is I feel like I want to see at least one, if not 2 games that are better than either of the ones he's played so far before the season begins.
Yeah, I also want to see him with the starters a little bit. Like I want to see him actually get a chance to be with them. But here's the thing. I think his development curve is just longer than everyone else's because of what happened in college and because of his last year. So I'm not like necessarily bothered by it. I think a lot of this is Peyton has the thing he's done well are the things he did well last year. Block shot, weak side rim protection, rotation stuff, even just rebounding. His rebounding was really good, I thought, in the first game as well. But he did hit his threes, granted. He did hit 2 threes, I think, in game 1 or whatever. So, like, there are things that he'll continue to get better at, but a lot of this is just he just hasn't played enough. And you know what, Adam, I don't think that answer will get there, and maybe even for what Peyton wants to be. I don't think we'll see that from Peyton until like maybe game 20, 25, because he just needs to get thrown into the fire a little bit and just figure out what he needs to do and how to play. So I think the preseason definitely want to see like a game or 2 here, but I think it's going to be a little bit of a longer curve than it would be for somebody like even Julian.
Zeke Naji is the other guy, and I might even argue that with the way this has gone through 2 games, again, admittedly small and difficult to parse out sample size, he almost looks more important than Peyton. And I say that because Justin Holiday has looked like he can play. Julian Strawther looks like he can play.
Yeah.
Zeke's the only guy. Like, if it's not Zeke, where do we go? And Zeke so far to me has been a mixed bag. There's been really good Zeke stuff. There's been some really good Zeke stuff so far. There's also been some questionable stuff. And one of the questionable things is and I think it's the reason Adelman played the way he did. Andre Drummond's a big dude. Malone said at camp, we might go with DeAndre when there's a true big and Zeke when there's not. Well, last night they let Zeke try out against the biggest dude in the NBA, strength and athletic, height-wise, the biggest dude. And there was a lot of offensive rebounds. I'm not putting it all on Zeke, but it is the thing that if you're concerned about him. So what have you seen from Zeke, and what's your confidence level going into the season that he can play every night for the Nuggets at backup?
Well, Zeke is just not a dominant interior force, so he's never been. And I don't know if he has the mindset or the skill set to be that. I think that he's a good switch defender. He can step out and guard well. He can force space at times. I think he's a good finisher, like a vertical spacer, like if you need one or want to have one of those options. Doesn't have a mid-range game. He showed that he can get by people like Bol, but like if a stationary big that's moving his feet well, I don't know if he's going to do that. I think he can finish plays and he'll hustle. So he can be a play finisher, a hustler, and he can be a 5-out big that you can switch everything with. I don't know if Zeke Nnaji at this point in time is able to do too much else in this game yet.
Yeah, to me, I'm okay with Zeke, but not him. Zeke and Peyton are kind of in the same box to me right now, where I'm like, you know what? They bring something. I mean, Peyton has way more upside, right? But to me, where I'm saying, if you told me night one those guys play, are they a positive or a negative? I'd say I'll bet they're a negative, but not a major one. Like I think they're going to be a little bit of a negative on opening night. So I'm a little bit mixed on Zeke, but with both guys, I'll say this, the same thing I said for Peyton. I hope Zeke has at least one game in the preseason that is better than what we've seen out of the first two. I hope he has just one of them so we can point to and say, okay, there we go. Look at that rebounding. Look at that shot making, and go from there. The end of bench, like the other guys I want to talk about, we could do Reggie. My take on Reggie is that he has been exactly what I expected. I mean, you kind of hope, okay, a new year, new system. Is he going to be this or that? He makes some spectacular shots. I don't love when guys' best skill is bad shot making, and that seems to be his best skill, so I just don't love it. It's too volatile. I don't love the way he's run the offense so far. Like, it hasn't been the smoothest. So for me, he's been exactly what I expect, and I don't even – I'll give you real quick. Do you have anything else on Reggie?
No, I don't. No.
He's what we expect.
He just is what he is. Yeah, I think he is what he is. The mid-range shot, the step back mid-range on the baseline, like the pull-up three-pointers and all that. Like it's just I don't know. Again, he just needs to hit those shots and then play defense at a high level.
Right. And we kind of know at the rate he's going to hit those shots at. So that's going to be what it is. If we go to the other guys here, Hunter Tyson and Jalen Pickett are the next guys to talk about. Hunter Tyson has basically had the opposite of his summer league. In summer league, he couldn't miss a shot. And in preseason through 2 games, he couldn't make a shot. He did finally get the monkey off his back in overtime and saw one go down, which I think is a huge relief. Maybe that allows for him to relax a little bit going forward. I think with young guys in particular, there is something to he made shots early in summer league and got momentum and then couldn't miss. He missed shots early in preseason, and then all of a sudden it's got momentum, and now he can't make. So both of those guys, we'll get to Pickett next, but we'll start with Hunter. To me, he hasn't made mistakes, but he also hasn't stood out. I'm blown away that he's played the amount of minutes he's played, and I've noticed him as little as I have. That's kind of my take on Hunter Tyson.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's hard to translate below average NBA athleticism with a rookie because you have to figure the game out. Like that's the thing. Like,
great take.
You can't rely on just like. And again, I know Kai Jones just got released from the Charlotte Hornets. Have you ever seen Kai Jones before?
Have I ever seen him?
Watched him play before?
I mean, sure.
Freak athlete, like unbelievable. Like, and so when you're like that, you pop every time you're on the court. Hunter Tyson doesn't have that. So Hunter Tyson doesn't have the ability just to rely on like putback dunks and crazy rebounds, all that stuff. So for him, a lot of this is like moving your feet well, getting to your spots, securing the rebound, getting to those spots, getting your three up, getting to the rim, cutting. It's just real NBA basketball stuff he's gonna have to translate. Like he's even less of an athlete, and I'm not saying like Vlacho's not a good athlete, but like he's a lesser athlete than Vlacho is, but he's not as smart as Vlacho. So he just has to like get some of that the stuff to his game, the nuances that help you be an effective NBA player. I think he can because he's smart and he's mature. But first 2 games of his NBA career, everybody's more athletic than him. So now you just got to kind of pick it up from there.
His shot, he needs to be an elite shooter, and we've heard he is. And
Right.
the one thing I look at is in his college career, he had an elite 3-point shooting year once. It was his senior year. The other year's good, and early on in his career, not so good. So my question is he a great shooter? I don't know that. At Summer League, he looked like he was, and it was like, okay, here we go. But when he's not that, how much does he impact? Again, I don't think he makes mistakes, so he's not a guy that's sticking out like a sore thumb in the negative ways. But at the same time, you need to do something. And so far, I haven't seen enough something for me to go in.
Ryan Anderson?
Well, I mean, Ryan Anderson was what, 6'10"? I think he was a little bit bigger, and he was also a phenomenal rebounder.
Right.
So he had something in there into his game that was besides just does he make or miss. Hunter Tyson, we haven't seen that. I think he's more of a like continuity offense player than Ryan probably was. Ryan Anderson, I found a role when he just stood at the top of the key or at
Bertans, but a shorter Bertans.
Maybe, honestly, maybe, but again, Bertans to me is like he's been up and down in his shooting career as well, but at his best, he was a Michael Porter-esque shooter. Right. I don't know if Hunter Tyson is that. Hunter Tyson looks like a good shooter. Michael Porter's a different level, right? Hunter Tyson needs to he needs to have a couple more games like Summer League for me to really buy it. The other guy's Jalen Pickens. This is my guy. I thought he was really good in game one, and like sneaky good. Offensively, he had 1 assist, but he had like 4 assists that were free throws. Like he set up DJ for free throws. He set up Zeke for 2. And I think I can't remember who else he got for free throws. So I actually thought he set the table pretty well, but he looked small defensively. And there were possessions when the offense got bogged down where he got himself in a tough spot.
Yeah.
In game number 2, going up against Ayu Dosunmu and then later Javon Carter, 2 very good on-ball defenders, he looked incapable of getting around those guys and getting the offense going. And to me, the size part and the the thing I'm confident in him is that when he can get into the paint, he's going to make great decisions. He couldn't get into the paint in this game. And that to me was the most concerning thing.
But again, that's what the great thing about the NBA is. There's always an archetype. Kyle Lowry is a better athlete, but Kyle Lowry at this point in time, like, he doesn't have the shape. It's just the way he knows how to maneuver and to move the defense to where he wants it to be to make him effective. So I think Jalen, same thing with Hunter Tyson. You don't have the athleticism that pops off the screen. You can't rely on athleticism. Now, you could do it in Michigan State because you're a better athlete than most people there, but you're not in the NBA. So you just have to figure out the nuances of how to play NBA basketball and how to be successful. I think he will. But again, all this comes down to repetition. So I'm not surprised about Jalen just because he doesn't have the athletic profile. And again, Javon Carter, Ayo, and Alex Caruso are 3 of the best POA defenders in the league.
It was a very good matchup for him to go up against. In the same way that DeMar DeRozan was great for Peyton Watson because he's so crafty and it required more discipline. Javon Carter is one of the best on-ball defenders, and Ayu Dosunmu was a really good long-range on-ball defender. So that was a good test. But, Swipa, I do think he failed the test. Like, we have to call it like it is. It was a good test, but it was a fail.
Well, let me ask you this. So when rookies fail preseason tests for you, is that – I feel like for me that's just like a learning opportunity because, you know, you're just getting thrown into it. But, like, Julian has, like, surpassed the test. Like, he's just, gone way over. But I didn't expect that from any rookie. I didn't expect Chris Brown last year versus the Warriors to rip Jordan Poole, and all of a sudden he's an 82-game player, so you just have to get to those moments, and I think that some rookies are able to do it and some aren't. But yeah, I mean, by the way, if you saw DeMar DeRozan preseason, you would think he's a top 10 player in the NBA the way he'd be playing. But it's even on AG yesterday, he was
he's good, man. He's good at that stuff. I will say this of Pickett that I think goes that I appreciate. He doesn't turn the ball over. So he did not get the Nuggets into a good offensive rhythm. And I think it was largely in game 1, I thought he did. Some guys missed shots. There was free throws. There's that. In game 2, he did not. And I think it was on him. Like, one of the things is I wanted to see him play without Colin Gillespie on the court. They did that. They gave him that chance last night. And then, of course, it didn't produce. So, but he didn't turn the ball over. And there are levels to this. Your floor is significantly higher as a player when you don't make mistakes. Half the game is just not making mistakes. And he's a guy that I trust to not make mistakes, but he does have to do something positive. Colin Gillespie, I thought, had a pretty good game. I think Colin Gillespie, to me, is going to be a guy. Here's my thing on Colin, and I'm just going to get it out front. I don't think he's going to play or help the Denver Nuggets ever. And the problem is, at that size, and with his speed being really, really slow, it's almost impossible to make it in the NBA. How many guys 6'1" or under make it in the NBA that aren't elite at something? And he's like a pretty good shooter. He's gotten to the rim and done some of these like wild circus shots. But when you think about what is that bringing to the Nuggets, I don't see it. That being said, I do think he played really well, especially before overtime. I think he ran out of gas. He played like 22 minutes straight. But in the first 15-ish of those minutes that he played, I do think he had a good game. It's just that I just am not buying it.
Yeah, Colin is small, not super athletic, not an elite shooter. He's a good processor, but, in the NBA, that's just not necessarily going to get it done. So I like Colin. Like, he's a good dude. Everybody seems to, work really well with him. And he's like, obviously he's trying his best, but yeah, I just don't think he just doesn't have the profile that you can rely on. But again, if he had to be a spot player here and there, I think he could do it. But yeah, it's just extremely limited, but it's not his fault. It's just limitations that he has.
I agree. And the other thing is, and by the way, it might be the same. I might arrive at the same conclusion with Pickett, who I love that mold of player, but it could be a thing where it's like, it's nothing against him. It's just the weaknesses are he can't overcome those weaknesses. We'll wait to find out. But Colin, I will say this. He had a very good game last night and still shot 4 of 11. And that, to me, there's guys that do that where you're like, man, they were awesome and it was still inefficient. That's rough. So for me, that's one of the things about Colin.
Well, how big is what's the Patriots backup point guard? You know what I'm talking about. White dude, great all-ball.
Oh, TJ McConnell.
How big is he?
Man, that's a good question.
You think he's 6'2"?
It says 6'2".
I think TJ McConnell is 6'2".
He's really. I mean, he's 6'1". He's 6'1".
But even him, like, he has a little bit more athleticism to his game. He's just like a little bit more aggressive as a player. So like even that archetype, like, he doesn't even play a lot. But that's what I'm saying. Like, you just something you have to bring to the table that's like, stands out.
Also, is TJ McConnell a playoff player? He is a guy that plays so hard. He's like Facu in that he plays so hard that it elevates his impact on a regular season some nights. But in the playoffs, everybody plays hard. You start to scheme for guys' weakness. And I think his weakness is, I don't think TJ McConnell would be a guy that's getting steals and doing all this. Colin is more of an offensive player than a defensive one to me. I mean, he's more of like a shooter, this or that. And I just don't think he's going to be able to get those shots off. That being said, through 2 games, I've seen people say he has the edge right now if against Pickett. The way I would put it is both guys look like they're not, NBA guys just yet. So that's kind of my read on the thing. Even though Reggie has looked rough, both guys right now have struggled a little bit. But I will say this. I'm still enjoying watching them play. And one thing that I saw D-Line say on the DMVR show last night that I agree with is Colin did look better in Game 2 than he did in Game 1. And he looked better in Game 1 than he did in Summer League. Improvement is important. And while I'm not buying that this curve goes very far, I do think it plateaus at he's almost close to, last night is almost close to the plateau for him. You still got to give a guy credit for getting better and looking better game by game. And, I'll give him that.
Yeah. I think Jalen's just going to take time. I'm not even disappointed what I've seen just because I just didn't expect anything this early. But I think, again, as he just gets more used to playing NBA basketball, I think he'll get better. I definitely think he has more potential to Colin, but it's not, again, anything Colin didn't do. It's just they just have different games. And again, also, too, with the Nuggets, there's no such thing anymore of being a small player and not playing a good to neutral defender. And I just don't think, like, if you can't play defense for the Nuggets, then you more than likely are playing.
Yeah, for sure. I don't really have any notes on Jay Huff or Braxton Key. I will say Jalen Huff is this year's Grant Golden. I don't think the Nuggets view him as a guy. Like, the Nuggets view him as a gold guy that they're going to put on the gold and it's going to help their development. So I saw people freaking out about Jay Huff last night because he got postered a few times. You can't evaluate him that way. That's not his role in this environment. He's going to play as many minutes for the Nuggets this year as Grant Golden did last year. And then have the same impact on the overall arc. And then you look at Braxton Key. He is a guy that I had heard some buzz of, hey, man, this guy's kind of interesting. I'll say this, not my type of player.
How come?
He has good size. I just don't know. I don't know what he does that I like. I don't know where
he has the it factor, Adam. Did you see him tie the game up yesterday?
The it factor. There you go.
Twice, actually.
Well, there you go. You know who my guy is? Funk. Give me some Funk, man. The funniest player there is. The Funk has the greatest shot ever, man, and still somehow, He'll be fun in the G League. All right, everybody, that does it today for us. That does us for the week for us. We are back Monday morning. It won't be Sunday night. Me and Matt Moore will be doing our show on a Monday morning because there's a late night Sunday game for the Nuggets, and I'll be over there with DNVR. But I'm looking forward to it because we get to analyze another game and talk it through. Swipe, a great week this week.
Yeah.
Have yourself a good weekend.
Yeah, you too, brother.
All right, we'll see everybody on the other side.